And so you are stillness and life is moving. You are still and life is happening. You are still as the presence of being, and all that is moving and changing is not affecting your deep, silent stillness. You are absolutely unmovable. The presence that you are, unmoving, unchanging, always the same, always absolutely the same. And yet life is moving. The mind is moving. The body is moving. And yet somehow you are always the same. Unmoving, unchanging, simply aware, aware and so naturally observing all that is moving and changing, but never affected, never disturbed, always the same. You are the stillness, the deep, silent being, always the same. This wide open field. The heart knows this deep stillness. The heart knows this as peace. So familiar, so richly familiar, this peace of heart. Underneath the moving and changing, this deep, silent peace, this presence of being. Absolutely rooted in yourself, in truth. We are not speaking of something that the mind can find, and yet the mind is so concerned with looking. But all of the looking of the mind will never find this. Never find this. Because the mind is moving and you are still. And the mind, we could say, could only find this if it were to stop completely. But to stop completely is to dissolve the mind into this. To dissolve the mind into the glory of God. To dissolve the mind into the light, the wholeness, the purity, the divinity that just is. But we cannot create an instruction that says to the mind, stop, and you'll find what you are looking for. Because the mind does not know how to stop. So we cannot issue instructions to the mind and expect it to be able to follow and fulfill the instructions. We have to come to a deeper knowing. We have to come to be the awareness of the mind, see the mind, and see there is nothing that the mind can do. You can do nothing. You can try with all your might, but you can do nothing. It is only in the stop that the dissolving into the glory happens all by itself. Or we could say, by the grace of God, by the grace of love itself, does the knowing arise as the shining of the heart. There is nothing that we can do. And so too, do we not take on a sense of reward, as if we have done something good, as if we have got something. Because as soon as the mind tries to co-opt this moment and take it as a personal glory, a personal achievement, it's all gone. It's lost. It's lost into the quagmire of the mind and the me that is so concerned with itself, its achievements, its desires, its needs being met. And so, of course, to know yourself, to be here, it is desirelessness. It is a total openness. It is a dissolution of this clinging to what I want into what is wanted here. What is the divine grace here? What is happening here? And just to notice that this stillness that you are is never, ever adverse to what is happening. The stillness is just still. There's no resistance in stillness, in the presence of being. There's no judgment, no opinion. And how free it is to be here. How free it is to be without judgment, to be without opinion, and to be without the constant tension of creating a narrative about everything. How free it is to just be still and watch and be free of the narrative. Just to watch the narrative and to feel so deeply that you are free. No judgment, not trying to make it different, just this wide openness that includes it all. And so you are still and life is moving. You go nowhere. Life is moving and you are still. The environment shifts and changes, but you are still. You might think that you are moving in the environment, but you are still, and the backdrop is constantly shifting. You are not the moving, changing. You are the stillness. This simple presence of being that just is. Just being here. So here, so present, right now. Just being. Nothing to do, nothing to understand, nowhere to get to. Just simply being here. Just like this. You don't have to stop the mind. You don't have to create any particular mood or environment. Just to be here. Just to be here wholeheartedly. Right? 100% wholeheartedly. That even 99% is akin to a half-heartedness. So let your wholeheartedness be here, not a thread looking in the other direction. Because wholeheartedness, as Rumi said, reaches majesty, right? Wholeheartedness reaches the glory. Wholeheartedness says, this is all I am longing for. And when wholeheartedness is the resonance of your whole presence, then the glory reveals itself. To fall into the longing so fully, to say yes, this great, glorious, holy yes to now, to not know, to not want, and yet to long with all your heart, to feel the longing. The longing is like this ache, this yearning, this pull, this magnetism. You can do nothing about it. You can not change the longing, because it is the grace that has been put inside you so that you will find your way to yourself. It is the way to know yourself. The longing, the pull. What is this magnetic pull to know? What are we to know? It is all revealed in the stillness, in the silence of being, in the depths of being. The being itself, the innermost being itself, knows itself. In the silence, this recognition, a remembrance, a fine frequency of remembrance, the knowing that knows. We could say the part of you that has never forgotten. And it is just about following the longing out of the quagmire of obscurations to access this knowing that knows. That the only reason that we long for freedom, for truth, for God, for the glory, for the mother, for awakening or enlightenment, the only reason we are longing is because we have been given the grace of longing. We already know what we are. So the only reason we are longing is because we already know. And so it is just to turn towards the longing and stop attempting to fulfill that desire in the external with things, with the temporary and transient. When we stop trying to fulfill that longing with things, experiences, and we actually turn towards and fall into this longing wholeheartedly, we discover that we're met with wholeheartedness, a whole heart absolutely filled to the brim with God, with love, with the glory. We discover that wholeheartedness is rewarded with full-heartedness, with wholeheartedness, a heart that feels full of love, of divinity, of radiant shining light, a heart that knows itself. And this truth is always here. This truth cannot be spoken. These words are not the truth. You are the truth. These words are pointing you to find the truth that you are. The words themselves can never be the truth. They may arise out of the truth and be pointing to truth. But you have to find this truth within yourself, because truth can only be known in the moment of being truth. It's so intimate. It's so immediate. It is the radiant shining glory of your heart on fire in the knowing of itself, blazing as the glory that knows. And so the deeper that we fall into this remembrance, resonating at the fine frequencies, allowing purification to happen in the moving, changing landscape of life, and ever deepening into this remembrance of being the stillness, being the silence that just is, the being that just is. And as we deepen into this remembrance, we're opening to the absolute, the one, the glory, where we are one, before differentiation, before the dance of life. We remember this fine frequency of the one. And the more that we come to this remembrance, the extraordinary profundity is that we dance more uniquely, clearly on the surface of life. We dance as life, living itself, not tangled into its conditioned ways and habits and protections, but we dance uniquely, richly full, life full of the joy of life, and dancing uniquely at every point in the field, because every point dancing uniquely is in absolute service to the whole. Your uniqueness is in absolute service. You singing your own divine song as an expression of divinity is the greatest service. So we could say the great service is to know yourself, to collapse into your own heart, to absolutely dissolve into the heart of God, into the purity of perfect love, spotless love. And then to shine in this frequency on the surface of life as the unique dance of life. You dance freely, singing your unique song. You show your unique face of divinity, right? Every face is a face of God. Every face. And you start to see that in every face, whether it is humankind, animal kind, insect kind, nature kind, it does not matter. You just see the face of God in everything. You see the glory shining because it is shining in your own heart. When this is shining in and as your own heart, you're seeing a reflection of your radiance, of your knowing in and as everything. And so that is why it is all about just knowing this truth in your own heart, being this truth and being a living resonance of it. Singing the unique song you are here to sing. You do not need to be seen or heard. You do not need permission. You do not need to be validated. You do not need anything from anything external. You are whole, self-aware, self-sufficient, and richly free, being yourself. Life that is moving and changing is a reflection. What you see is a reflection of your own consciousness. Now, it's not personal. It can feel personal, and we're opening to the remembrance of the impersonal. So the impersonal consciousness creates a reflection, and we receive the reflection of where the consciousness is and the most profound possibility that can be pulled up on the screen for you to see yourself and to know yourself. And often in this unfolding, the reflection will be for you to meet something that you would not otherwise see and be humbled. The me doesn't like being humbled, but the heart knows that being humbled is bringing you closer to the glory. It's bringing you closer to the glory of God, to the perfect love. It's bringing you closer to what you are longing for. That being humbled isn't what the mind may think of as being humiliated. Being humbled is being relieved of, being relieved of something that you no longer need. And yes, it doesn't always feel comfortable to be brought to your knees, to feel the sting, the holy burning. But my goodness, as the transformation happens, isn't there such a celebration that we have been humbled out of that conditioned pattern, and how much lighter it feels, and how much more openness there is. And in the openness, great glory, here is even more love, more an ability to love love itself, to love your companions, to love everyone, everything, and to love God, love more than you have ever loved, that you seem to grow in love, but in truth, you are growing in remembrance. The obscurations are falling away, and the remembrance of love is growing, is radiantly shining. This is what is truly happening. And we come to this openness where we don't even care what's happening, because hallelujah, here's the love. Here's the love. Here's the light. Here's the freedom. And we recognize that whatever comes along that stops us, that creates resistance, is somehow a grace that is offering us the possibility of meeting ourselves more deeply, opening into a greater intimacy, a greater remembrance, that in truth you are the stillness that never moves. You are the stillness that never moves. Life is moving, and you are not. Life is happening, and you are just watching. The mind is thinking, and you are watching. You are in your own dream. You imagine that you want to be seen and heard and understood by others, but no one will ever, ever understand you. However many hours and cups of tea you might pass trying to explain the intricacies of your heart, no one will ever know you, because we can never know another, not in the way that we long to be known by another. We can only ever be known in the one heart. Anyone that you imagine that knows you only through their own filters, only through their own experience. If there is a sense of resonance, it is because there is a collective one mind, and we can resonate with shared experience. But no one will ever know you until they can meet you in silence. In silence, I know you. In silence, you know. Because the only thing to know is to know the truth, where we are one. All the little details about how you function, what your needs are, what kind of behaviors keep you happy, all of that stuff is kind of irrelevant. What you really need to be known in is in the light, in the silence, where you know yourself. In the silence, there is knowing. You are known in the silence, in your entirety. Because to be truly known in the silence is to be met in the presence of love, without judgment, without opinion, without a need for you to be a certain way. I don't need you to behave like this or like that, or to see me like this. I don't need you to be something that will make me feel what I want to feel about myself, right? This is how we can operate. All that is needed is to be seen in utter presence. And you feel so seen in the silence, in the stillness. You feel seen. You feel heard. Because you are hearing yourself, seeing yourself, knowing yourself as the silence. So we might as well give up all of our expectations to be understood in the play of the world, and recognize that sometimes there will be a shared sense of, yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, you get it. That's exactly the way that I see things. And just to notice how you feel so validated. Oh, yes, right. I feel seen. But until you see yourself and you don't need any of that, this is where wholeness is. Wholeness is when you really see yourself. You meet yourself. Because when you can meet yourself here in the silence, you can meet anyone, anything, whatever happens. You don't need it to be anything for you. You don't need life to be anything other than what it is. Because you know yourself and you're here for yourself. And so life can happen because you know you're the stillness that doesn't move. Life is happening. Life is changing. And you are here. And you are still. So to be here for yourself, in a way, is kind of the goal of the human life. To be so fully here for yourself that you know yourself. You don't know yourself in the ways that the mind might imagine that the self is, as some kind of ascension, some kind of illuminated state that puts you above mere mortals, the muggles, right? Not at all. It's to know that your radiant heart is shining. Your radiant heart is shining. There is no me and you, the exalted and the mediocre, the muggles and the magic. None of it is true. It's all the same. It's all the glory of God. And in truth, it's all a magic beyond imagining. Because the whole show, the whole shebang, the whole experience of the human life is the great, glorious, divine magic show, right? None of it is as you think it is. It's a magic show beyond imagining. And so it is to disappear into the source of the magic, the source of the show, the source of it all, to keep falling back into the stillness, into the presence, into the stop, into the source of it all. and hear the knowing of yourself. So this divine remembrance of yourself is really like a deconditioning of all that we have learnt about life, to actually find out, what is this all about? Who are you in truth? Underneath all that you have been taught, underneath the protections and the conditionings, it is to be the intrepid explorer that is willing to go where no one else has ever been, and that is into your own heart, and access the glory through your own heart. It is to access God through your own heart. Access yourself, your purity, divinity, and absolute holiness through your own heart. Your heart that is longing. We have some sense of what we are longing for, but even to put it into words never really touches that richness of the heart, the sense of the force, the power, the sense of longing, of devotion, the sense of curiosity, the sense of that magnetic force field. We do not choose that. That is a great, glorious gift. It is inside every being equally. No one is left out. And yet some of our sacred companions in the play of life have greater obscurations, but every being is working where they are. And that is why we don't have to worry about where anyone else is or what they are working through, or try to be the savior of anyone else. Because to be your own savior is actually the greatest and most powerful way to save the whole, to save yourself, to know yourself, to bring the light of illumination in your own heart, means that you become this radiant frequency and reverberation on the surface of life that is in service to the whole. And we don't need to understand how all of that works. Some beings will come to understand the mechanics and some beings won't. But we all have a unique functioning. And the deeper that we fall into the glory, the more we are used perfectly in service to the great divine unfolding. We could say we are used perfectly in service to the divine shifting the consciousness of humanity to remember its divinity. And we have no idea how we will be used. And yet we will find that there's some kind of extraordinary alignment, as if it's been written in the stars, and it was always supposed to be this way, because it was always supposed to be this way. We've just been hiding in the shadows of our conditionings. And as we make our way out of the shadow of our conditionings, we start to shine. We start to shine, and we start to feel a familiarity. Oh, this is what I've always known. Somehow this is so familiar. This feels so right. Feels so much love. So true, so alive. Because there's this alignment that's happening. Because you're emptying of your resistance, emptying of protection, emptying of all that useless knowledge that we've been filled with. We're emptying. And as we empty of all of the nonsense, we're filled with the great glorious light of divinity. And we start to actually be of use, of service. And we're not choosing it. And yet it's happening. And it's beautiful. It's extraordinary. And in a way you could never have imagined it. And yet it feels so right, and you've always known. It's that you are shining in the radiance of the open heart, right? You're starting to shine in your uniqueness. You stop fearing your uniqueness. Here, there's no comparison because you know your uniqueness, and you know in your uniqueness that every being is absolutely unique, and whatever is happening is absolutely perfectly right. It's right for you, it's right for them, it's right for the whole. The script is being written by the whole dance, dancing itself. It's the most extraordinary collaboration. And yes, sometimes it looks like really hard things happening, but we have to trust in our deepest heart that if we stay aligned with love and we keep loving, the changes will come on the surface of life. We access deeper values of compassion, compassion for the beings in our dream that seem to be struggling, suffering, having a hard time. And we know that our way of supporting is to just go deeper into love, to just love more, to not be fooled into collaborating with fear, to not be fooled into collaborating with the whole mental landscape where, in a way, we could say the great imbalance, the great misunderstanding. It's constantly, it's a crazy show. It's constantly trying to pull us in, constantly trying to catch us. Will you get hooked with this? Will you buy this thing? Will you think you need that in order to be full? Will you move in this way? Will you move in this way? Will you keep spending all your money and buying more things, more experiences? Will you keep being hooked into this idea that you are somehow deficient and broken and that you need all of these things and experiences of the world in order to find your wholeness? Will you be hooked by the next propaganda news story that tries to bring you into outrage? No, you've got to fight. You've got to do something. Will you be pulled in to the crazy tornadoes of fear so that you're hooked in? Right? You have to be so discerning. Keep loving, keep loving, keep loving. Keep knowing that this is a dream. This is a dream. The mind is dreaming. The mind is dreaming. And wherever you see discordance, it's to not leave yourself, but to resolve all of the feelings of discordance that arise in your nervous system. Settle it into its source. Feel it, meet it, allow it, love it, listen to it. There's so much wisdom. Listen to the story that you're telling yourself. Don't feel like you need to charge off and rant it on social media. Stop. Listen to the story, even if it's some kind of heartbreak about what you're seeing. Listen to yourself. Be here for yourself. Give yourself the love and the care and the space, the tenderness to feel the anger, sadness, the grief, the fury, the confusion. Feel what's happening in your nervous system and see how easy it is to jump into a projection of what someone else is feeling, right? So easy. Jump in. Those poor people, they're experiencing this. It's like a projection. You're imagining, if that was you, what would you feel? But instead of jumping into that projection, help the collective by receiving it in your nervous system, settling it out by being the loving presence, the compassionate presence, and let the reverberations of the transmutation and the frequency of the love that you are be the kind of sprinkling dust of gorgeousness that touches in the vast open field of consciousness every heart that might be struggling in all kinds of crazy situations. Let every heart be touched by your silence. That you're the silence. That wherever you are, distance doesn't matter. In the silence, you're touching every heart. In the silence, you're listening to every heart. When you listen to your own heart, right? When you listen to your own heart, you allow your humanness, your quirky, flawed dance of protections and conditionings that are still playing to be met in love. You listen to your own heart. You listen to the parts of you that feel broken, unfixable, angry, furious, so hurt, so violated. You allow those feelings to reverberate through your nervous system for the whole. You allow yourself to be this vehicle of reverberating transmutation for the whole. And so as the transmutation happens through your system, and you keep saying yes to love, that the rebalancing happens in your nervous system, in your consciousness, in your heart. And then you start to resonate at a finer frequency, even if it feels like you're resonating in this love, this joy, this delight. Like, what right do I have to feel such joy when others are seemingly suffering? The glory would say, what right do you to not feel the joy and share that joy, right? What right do you have to overlay your natural joy and beauty with obscurations of arrogance and imagining that you know something more than the divine? What right do you have to not shine? You have no right, right? In truth, you have no right to imagine that your humanness has to be some kind of miserable penance that imagines that if you make an allegiance with fear and suffering, that somehow you're doing good. Not at all. It is to be the radiant, shining resonance of joy, a causeless joy, a happiness of knowing your true nature, your true self, and to be the resonant reverberation. Because here in the silence, you're touching all that is. You're reverberating in the silence. You're listening, you're hearing, you're holding, you're caring, you're giving, you're sharing, you're loving here in the silence. This is the great service. And then however you are moved in your uniqueness as the play of life, this too is the offering. This is the offering. And it all comes as an uprising dance from the stillness, from the silence, from the presence of being, the heart that is openness, the heart that is infinite, the silence of eternity. This timeless being, the spotless love, divine love. It is what we are all longing for, because the heart already knows this is who you are. And so it is to come to this love. Come empty. Come without desire. Come as you are, just as you are. And you are enveloped into an all-encompassing love. In truth, if you come full of protections and ideas, if you come full of misery, you will be welcomed in the heart of love. You will always be welcomed. It is to be here in the presence and allow such a welcoming to happen just as you are. Nothing needs to change. Come just as you are and be welcomed. Life moves to purify here, purify the obscurations. Purification is not always comfortable. Maybe we could say not ever comfortable. But purification starts to become more comfortable when we are not resisting, right? When we're just allowing purification to happen. Okay, here's some funky feelings. Here's a wave of stress. Releasing is happening. Conditionings are coming forward. There's something that wants to protect. We come to just allow. But we move through resistance. Resistance is part of it. Doubting is part of it, that just asks us to question deeper. Everything that we are is a part of the great mechanistic functioning. There's nothing that's outside of it. But when we come to the stillness and we recognize life is moving, you are not. The presence of being is always here. Life is happening. You are observing, you are aware, naturally. You come to realize this part of you, the largest part of you, is this extraordinary freedom, this unmoving, unchanging presence of being that has never ever moved, immovable, unchanging presence. And here the dissolving happens. It's like a thawing of the frozen places, a thawing of all the holding, the protections into this presence, a frequency of true safety. A letting go starts to happen because you start to open to the part of you that knows wholeness, part of you that is all always and already whole. Open to this true safety that allows these tender, hidden away parts to come courageously forward, to surface into the light, into the love. Because these parts, they are already one and the same. And they know their essence, even though they are tangled up, afraid, frozen, hiding, pushed down. They do know their essence, and they have shut down in the presence of the play of life, mostly in the young life, where they recognized they were surrounded by frequencies that didn't feel safe and whole. Very sensible in a way. Shut down, find a way of surviving, find a way of coping. And yet these places inside are so longing for freedom. And in the presence of knowing yourself, in the frequency of true safety, these places that have been hiding away, they start to surface because they start to recognize a meeting in essence nature. They start to feel that kind of essence nature frequency, and they start to surface and come forward. Our habit to protect will want to push them away. No, 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 not that feeling, not that feeling, not that feeling. But what if we allow that feeling to come forward? You are welcome. You are welcome. Feel, express, whatever is here is allowed to come forward into this absolute compassionate welcoming of true safety. And how extraordinary that as we open, we realize that we're so resourced because we're in the presence of being. We are now resourced from divinity, right? We're not being resourced from the mind and the limited. These places will never open into a safety that doesn't feel whole. But once we are being resourced from the divine, from the remembrance, right? We're being resourced from wholeness. And once there's this recognition within your functioning in the nervous system that you are being resourced from divinity, these places start to feel that and open. Start to feel that and come forward. And so this whole natural mechanistic functioning is happening. It's wisdom. It's intelligence. And these words come not to learn anything, but to bring online the intelligence that you are, that knows this. That the intelligence that you are recognizes, and it's attuning in its own unique way. It's realigning, recalibrating. Every being is receiving these words differently, uniquely, perfectly. It is as if your own heart is speaking to you, because the words are a resonance and they translate through the intelligence so that each system, each consciousness receives exactly the perfect reflection to go deeper, to trust yourself more deeply, and to remember your true essence nature deeper, clearer. You are the stillness. Life is moving and you are not. You are the silence, ever-present peace, undisturbed by the happenings. You have never moved, never changed, You have always been yourself. The knowing is here, and as the intelligence is enlivened, the recognition deepens. The knowing is here in your own heart. It is the knowing of the being that you are, a knowing of the holiness of the presence that you are. It is the knowing of love, the knowing of the glory somehow, as this radiance, this inner radiance, this inner joy without cause, this celebration. And we say inner, but it's not even only inside. It just is within your own functioning. That you have this intelligence, this naturalness, this knowing, this wisdom light inside. And it is to open to your own openness. Feel the resonance of remembrance, however it is here. Do not allow any kind of comparison to take you away, any kind of ideas of what this should be like. To just be so fully present in your own presence, here now, just as you are, in the stillness that is not moving, in the silence that is the deep, undisturbable peace of the silent heart. A peace of God. Falling in and in, deeper into your own knowing, silent and aware, still and watching. Just to be here, just as you are, naturally free, deeply connected, naturally connected to Source, the source of all, where you are resourced from the source, that the knowing knows that you are resourced from divinity. You're being resourced from the infinite field of possibility, from the unlimited, allowing the nervous system to recalibrate, to surface and release and transmute, and to rest deeply in the knowing of the being that you are, the love that you are, a love that is pure, a love that is silence, the self, the glory. And however it resonates in your own functioning, do not let the words pull the attention. Allow the intelligence to translate. And so your knowing is enlivened and sparked. Glory is alive in every heart as a fine frequency. It is just to get still enough, quiet enough, to recognize the subtlety of the fine frequency of the glory that is here. Follow the longing into the frequency and allow the radiance to shine in remembrance.